Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Joe Papano from FiberLink Communications. We've got what we think is a pretty timely program today on mobile device management in a post-BlackBerry world. We've got Chris Corbet from our product marketing team here to talk to you about kind of what this post-BlackBerry world is all about, what it means, why it's happening, what it means to IT, and how IT can prepare itself for what we would say is inevitably coming, and you're probably seeing the same thing. So Chris, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yes, thanks, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the session. I thought we'd start by going over a quick agenda as far as what we intend to cover today. So I'd like to start by talking a little bit about today's mobile landscape, a lot of the changes that we're seeing, and some of the shifts of power, if you will, in terms of the mobile device market, and why this is happening. And on top of that, what does it really mean for those of you in IT who are tasked with supporting these new devices or supporting the users, if you will, that are bringing in these new devices? After that, we've got what we'll refer to as our 6 steps to next-gen device management. I'll go ahead and define what we mean by next-gen device management when we get to that point, and we'll go through kind of some of the best practices and some other considerations to take into account as you embark on this journey of device management. From there, we'll do a quick conversation around MAS 360 and our mobile device management platform, as well as show you just a couple pieces of our portal live that kind of talk to converged management of all of these devices and some of the advantages of taking that approach. Then obviously, we will talk to you about how you can get started managing all of these devices from a single platform in a single window as quickly as today. From there, I want to get into what we've kind of labeled the 6 steps to next-gen device management. So kind of giving you an outline as far as some best practice procedures to embrace these changes and manage all of these devices. From there, we'll talk a little bit about the MAS 360 mobile device management platform, and I'll show you a quick live demonstration and talk advantages, and then obviously, we'll wrap up with some tips as far as how you can get started managing these diverse device population, starting quickly as today.
So we're going to run our first poll like we always do, and we're going to ask folks to. Hang on, I'm going to open the poll right now. We're going to ask folks to tell us what your plans are among your current BlackBerry population, and of course we'll share the info with you as soon as we're finished.
So while you guys are filling that out, I thought we'd start by talking about kind of what's going on in the mobile landscape today. So as my slide says here, the days of BlackBerry only, if you will, are over in our opinion. So historically, companies were standardized on a BlackBerry only environment. And as Bob Dylan always said, the times they are a-changin'. iOS and Android devices have taken over the consumer market by storm, and really that's moving to the enterprise. I think this graph that we have up here is a really nice pictorial evidence of what's happening in the device marketplace today, and you're probably seeing much of that occur, in your enterprise landscape as well. You really can no longer, ignore the employee device preference anymore. I mean, the Apple and the Google platforms here for mobile devices are becoming more and more prevalent, and they're just taking over.
And I think, the results here from the poll, look like they really, line up with that graph, right? 2/3 of the folks on this call believe the number of BlackBerries in their corporation is going to decrease over the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, and certainly there's a lot of reasons that this is probably happening. We'll touch on a couple. By no means is this meant to be a rim-bashing session by any stretch of the imagination. But obviously, this change is really, happening for a variety of reasons. The first is, I feel like RIM is focused a lot on the security of its platform and some of the requests of maybe its large customers or partners, while devices have showed, little for the actual end user. And as we know today, devices are for so much more than messaging, right? I mean, devices are used for messaging, content delivery, entertainment, web browsing, and different applications have a variety of different other, means like social networking, etc. So Apple obviously has done a fantastic job, devoting their device for the user. And on top of that, applications really are the chosen future of the user for how they're going to interact with these devices. And unfortunately, a lot of app developers are avoiding developing their applications on the BlackBerry operating system. Whether that be OS 6 or QNX. There's a lot of doubt out there for app developers in terms of the worth to invest the time and resources to develop on those operating systems. The other thing is the lack of a true tablet presence. So the playbook, I actually have a playbook. I use it occasionally. It just lacks some much required functionality to, I think, make a true impact in that marketplace. Lack of native email. You have to do the BlackBerry Bridge. AT&T just finally, launched that software. The size is a little small as well for my liking. So obviously the tablet presence is a little bit lacking there. And then obviously, you saw that first graph. Employee choice is going to continue to be key. So, when you're recruiting more talent and an employee asks whether or not they can bring their iPhone or if they're required to use a BlackBerry and they prefer the iPhone, obviously, you want to be able to answer accordingly. And then finally, Apple on the iOS side and Google lately on the Android side have made leaps and bounds in terms of the manageability of those devices for the enterprise. And that's obviously playing a huge role in enterprise adoption. So, those reasons, amongst some others, are really why this trend is occurring in the marketplace.
So I think certainly being someone who's carried BlackBerries for years and Androids and iPhones as well. I mean, to me, what it kind of comes down to is the BlackBerry is kind of the ultimate mobile communication device, but it is certainly not a content device, an application device, entertainment device, or any of those other things. And clearly, the balance has shifted here more towards those things. So that's certainly what my own personal perspective on why I would carry something else other than BlackBerry these days. We're going to open our second poll up now, and we'll share the results as soon as we're finished. And obviously, we just heard a lot of folks are thinking about moving away from BlackBerry. We'd be interested in hearing what your primary reason is for that. So if you could let us know that.
And in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about what this shift in device preference and the device landscape really means for IT. The first thing is I think it's really time to rewrite the book on device lifecycle management and the process associated there. So we've probably written a lot of really good documentation with fancy screenshots of turning on a new user and setting up their BlackBerry in the BES system or wiping a device. And unfortunately, the time's come for us to kind of rewrite that book and take a new approach there. Security paranoia, I think, will be a key theme later, throughout the rest of this year and really into next year. When certainly being able to run malware software on these devices and taking into account some of the security concerns that BlackBerry did a really nice job closing the gap on. The other thing is, do you already have these devices running in your environment but are maybe turning a blind eye? So is ActiveSync turned on? Are you sure that nobody's connected? Does your CEO have an iPhone? And obviously you're going to support him or her if you get a call in the middle of the night with an issue. And certainly I'd argue if the CEO has one of these different devices, then you're already far along the path of supporting them. And then obviously, as you guys probably know all too well, the size of headcount or team size remains the same despite having to support these multiple other devices. So what that means is IT is going to be responsible for creating a lot of efficiencies and standardizing process where available to be able to manage these different devices.
Hey, we just posted the results of the last poll, and 14% of you mentioned another reason why you're considering moving away from BlackBerry. For those of you that selected other, if you could send me what that reason is in the chat panel, I'd appreciate it and be happy to share that with the rest of the group.
Thanks. So, kind of moving on to that next step here, what we've done is we've taken what we've learned and seen from our customers and kind of condensed all of their obstacles, their pains, their successes, their triumphs, and really what's worked in their world to move from just a true BlackBerry-only management shop to one that's going to embrace the likes of iOS and Android and some of the other newer mobile devices in the market. And we've condensed all of that learning into really 6 simple steps, I think, to help get you started along the lines of what we're calling next-gen device management. What I mean when I say next-gen device management, folks, is really just device management outside of BES only. It's as simple as that, right? It's being able to support the ever-changing mobility landscape that now is, riddling us with iOS and Android devices, but who knows what the future will bring. So, step number 1 is really the sooner you can accept that this is the case, the sooner you're really going to be able to get your hands around the process. You really have to embrace the changes. These new devices are here to stay, and BlackBerry's not going away anytime soon. I know plenty of people that really prefer their BlackBerry for the classic email workflows that they do, and they don't want to give that up. However, they love the apps on the iPhone. So those are the power users in your environment.
I'll tell you an even stranger story. I have a 15-year-old daughter who gave up her iPhone for a BlackBerry because she's a texter.
She can text faster,
yeah,
huh?
she likes the keyboard.
I know some 40-year-old men in this company that would do the same thing.
Yeah, so yeah, it's certainly not the case that BlackBerry is going to vanish at all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Step 2, guys and girls, I'd like to ask that when you do kind of go on this path to next-gen device management, create some themes for your organization. It'll help with the initiative, and make one of those themes consistency of workflow, okay? So if you think about it, if you're managing BlackBerry and then some other devices like iOS and Android, and maybe your PCs and desktops in 3 different systems with 3 different sets of workflows, you're really tripling the amount of work it takes to train a new employee, to write documentation or update documentation, to keep process in line, to test certain things after different upgrades in your environment, etc. So anywhere that you can create consistency of workflow and standardization of process will pay off in the long run. Step 3 is, I know this is going to be tough, but try not to play favorites, if you will, when it comes to different devices. I know it'll be tough, especially with some of those other, maybe older versions of the Android operating system that might not have had all the security features enabled. But if you can standardize on a security policy and be consistent as possible across the different platforms, I think you'll be quite pleased in, not only the employee satisfaction, but also their willingness to accept that policy, right? So if I have a password complexity requirement on BlackBerry, that requirement should kind of be mimicked on iOS and Android and so forth. I think employees, again, will be far more likely to accept that change in the policy that you're going to be putting on their devices. And step 4. So I think everything really needs to be thought of in terms of real-time actions. These devices are mobile. They're constantly going to be accessing the network and doing mail and messaging and communication and web browsing, etc. So real-time action is really the only option out there to support these devices. If a device is lost or stolen, if it's the CEO's device, we got to make sure that we're going to be wiping that in real time and not necessarily waiting for tomorrow for the change control to be executed and somebody to get into the office. So making sure that your platform is always accessible for you to be able to perform these management tasks at any time. Step 5, so we've already talked about most of the basics, right? So do those basics first and then layer in some of the advanced features for mobile device management. I actually think that you'll be quite surprised as far as what could be done outside of BES as it relates to proactive management of maybe compliance, as well as, we talked about applications kind of being the way that employees want to work and be productive today. So embrace that, right? Work on application management. Maybe build enterprise apps and distribute them. Recommend marketplace apps. Hold a contest for your employees to recommend their best app from the marketplace that they are able to increase productivity with, and then use an app store to go ahead and recommend that to other employees. So kind of embrace that game in terms of advanced mobile device management features.
I think obviously the tablet form factor especially is a complete application platform, right? And so, that's really brought application management kind of into kind of the focus here in MDM, much more so than it was, in the past. So we definitely see that. And, I agree with you as well, your point about, IT's got to kind of be adaptive here, because this technology is kind of coming in from the bottom up versus the traditional top-down way of deploying or providing IT is a bit of a challenge. And you mentioned this real-time compliance and enforcement, and we are going to be doing a webinar on, I think it's about a month from now, on August 4th, where we're going to talk about how you can use MAS 360 to automate a lot of these real-time compliance issues that can come up with your mobile devices. So, for example, a phone that was in compliance, but someone decides to jailbreak it. You really don't want to wait until you wake up in the morning to deal with that. You'd really like to have something that's, kind of there, noticing that this action's occurred and can take the appropriate action on the device. So, if you're interested in learning more about how, dynamic policy enforcement can help you solve those kinds of problems, join us for that webinar.
Yeah, certainly. I'll stop with the spoiler there, but and move on to the next one. Actually, you mentioned something that'll kind of flow into the final step, and that's, this initiative is really being driven by the employees and by the business. So reporting on what's happening in your environment as it relates to all the different mobile devices and the efforts and impact that you're making in IT is key. You're going to be able to report upward in your organization. So make sure that you've got good analytical tools that are going to help you track different changes or rollouts, and report upward to the CIO that, hey, we now have this many employee-owned devices versus corporate-owned devices, which we estimate are saving us Y amount of dollars over a certain period of time. That's going to go a long way. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure you're aligning IT with business, because again, that's where this initiative came from.
All right, we're going to run our third poll. We've got 4 today, so we're going to open this one up right now. And we just talked a little bit about application management and document management, and how it's kind of the new frontier in MDM. So we wanted to ask folks what their plans are specifically around deploying BlackBerry apps. So obviously, iPhones and Androids, one of the advantages is you can deploy apps. We're interested in knowing, for those folks who are heavy BlackBerry users, what are your plans, what are you currently doing, and what are your future plans for deploying apps? We'll share the results with you in a minute.
And while you're doing that, I wanted to mention a couple other considerations. So now that you've got kind of your 6 steps for next-gen mobile device management, it's time to think through how you're going to tackle that. And I wanted to talk through a couple other considerations that you should keep in the back of your mind when you're making decisions in regards to mobile device management vendors or solutions, if you will. And the first is the pace of change in this mobile landscape is like nothing we've ever seen before, ever. I mean, if we thought smartphone change was wild, then enter the tablet, right? So it's going to require constant updates and constant change. Make sure that you can handle that in an on-prem, server-based, or appliance-based model. It's a lot of outages, it's a lot of change controls, all staff emails potentially, etc. So obviously, if you have a cloud-first initiative, you're going to be looking for cloud providers out there. If you don't have one, I'd recommend taking a look and seeing how that might be able to alleviate some pain. Again, know your scaling requirements as well. So if you've got 10,000 BlackBerries today and only 100 iPhones, think about what that breakdown's actually going to look like a year from now, and know what that means in terms of scale and cost as well.
Right. So the infrastructure you need to support 100 iPhones may not be the same infrastructure you need to support 1,000.
Exactly. So just have that in the back of your mind. Make sure you're comfortable as well with the impact on your existing systems, like Exchange or Notes or Active Directory or Bez, whatever you have in place. Make sure you just have a good comfort level that obviously that whatever you're choosing is not necessarily going to be in a critical path that you're not comfortable with. Again, be comfortable with your vendor as well. Like I said before, change is constant. So, ask the right questions about their staying power, how long they've been in business, the ability to adapt, and and kind of bring on support for iOS 5 or iOS 6 or the next rev of Android or what have you, coming down the market path. And then the final thing I'll say is, now ask yourself what your plans are for PC management plus mobile device management. Do they overlap today? Do you plan on making them overlap tomorrow? Traditionally, the team that's managed BlackBerries, might not be the same team that you want to manage mobile devices in the future. That might kind of fall under more PC services, and just because the workflows will be similar. So think about that now, because if you know the answer in advance and it's a future plan, it can impact your decision early on, because you might want a solution that scales to that as well.
And we're going to open our final polling question, and what we're interested in is, for those of you that are going to be starting to support devices beyond BlackBerry, is there a specific approach that you would take towards it, cloud-based or server-based?
And while you're doing that, let's talk real quickly about how we at Mass360 deliver mobile device management. We are a cloud SaaS-based solution, okay? So you can see the diagram here where we're going to talk about how we can integrate with your existing infrastructure, whether that be Exchange, Lotus Notes, Active Directory, Bez, etc. And we do that with a little piece of software we call our Cloud Extender. It'll sit alongside of your existing infrastructure and talk to it directly and pass along commands and pull data and then present that back in terms of workflows and reporting in our cloud-based management center. Again, it sits alongside your existing infrastructure, not in front. And then on the more detailed side of things, we actually have profiles and agents that can live on iOS devices, Android devices, as well as PCs and MacBooks, etc., to give you a more granular level of visibility and control over those devices. So what I thought I might do right now is go ahead and share with you an application and show you an actual demonstration of our mobile device management portal. And I'm only going to show you a couple things just for time's sake, but I wanted to touch on a little bit as it relates to supporting multiple device types in a single platform, in a single portal. So obviously, one of the key things when you're managing all of these devices is you're going to have different smartphones, different tablets, and maybe PCs as well. So you're going to want a portal that supports all of those and is able to give you a nice breakdown of what that looks like in your environment, whether that be at the device level or manufacturer level as well. So here you can see that I'm able to get reporting that shows me a number of Apple devices versus BlackBerry devices that I have in my environment. And also take that, to another level with the device types. I'm also going to show you one other thing here, and what I'll do is a quick search for an employee here in our demo environment, and that employee is Jim Safransky. And you can see Jim's a power user. He's got a bunch of different devices, including a laptop, an iPad, an iPhone, Android, and a BlackBerry. So in this particular environment, this is all about standardization and efficiency of workflow, right? So maybe we just provisioned Jim an iPhone. He's been using it for a couple weeks. He wanted to see if he liked it, and it's his own iPhone from home. And he just called in and said, listen, I do really like this device. You don't need to spend money on my BlackBerry anymore. You can go ahead and deprovision that device. So I wanted to show you quickly how you could do that directly from our portal by clicking on the BlackBerry device, locating information about it, and then via the actions, I can over the air wipe that device simply from here, and then once I've done wiping the device, I can simply remove it from the Bez server. At that point, the BlackBerry device is no longer in use. We can reallocate it to a different employee, cancel that data plan, etc., and Jim will be using his iPhone from that point on. Okay. Now, I thought I'd wrap up quickly with some of the advantages of our platform. The first thing I wanted to touch on again is we do total enterprise device management. We provide a single pane of glass for management, visibility, control, actions, etc. across all of your different smartphone and tablet types, whether that be iOS, Android, BlackBerry, any ActiveSync or Lotus Notes connected device, etc. Or your Windows-based or Mac-based PCs and laptops. And we do that with best-in-class reporting, and you saw some of the mobility intelligence pieces there. We do that in a way that we kind of call true SaaS, okay? So we talked about the pace of change in the mobile marketplace, and keeping up with those upgrades and constant change control can be quite burdensome. Our SaaS-based approach allows us to pass along, the benefits of supporting a new version of iOS or Android or what have you quite quickly without any work on your side. So I'd urge you to, obviously take into account that piece. And also be wary of claims of cloud or claims of SaaS that are really just hosted appliances that are specific to your environment. Believe me, I've worked with vendors like that, and the pace of change control certainly still has some lag there in terms of once a piece of functionality is ready until you can actually realize it. Also, we leverage your existing investments, and we sit alongside, not in front. So, when we're talking to Exchange ActiveSync or Notes Travel or Abez, we're not in the critical path of message delivery. Okay, that's something you need to be quite cognizant of when you're evaluating mobile device management. And again, we're just allowing you to embrace that change. Back to step one. Employee device choice while maintaining IT peace of mind is going to be a key theme in terms of you doing this next-gen device management. And then obviously the consistency of workflows that we showed is going to help kind of roll out the other themes that we talked about in terms of mobile device management. So with that, I'd like to quickly say thanks for the MAS 360 MDM and talking about some of the mobile device management pieces. And I know Joe wanted to follow up and talk to you a bit about how you can go ahead and get started using this in your environment today.
Yeah, so in a minute, folks, we're going to open the floor up to Q&A. So some folks are sending things in right now. We'll get to them in a minute, but if you've got some questions, send them in now, and Chris and I will do our best to handle them. Obviously, we're cloud-based, and so that gives us a couple of advantages. And I'd say two of them are it's quick and it's easy, quick to deploy, easy to use. And we obviously encourage people to not just listen to what we're saying, but to actually try the product, because you can. So when we end the event, your browser is going to get redirected, hopefully, to the screen you see right here that will let you sign up and take an eval of MAS 360. You'll be able to do everything and see everything that kind of Chris showed, and you'll have a fully functional account to manage mobile devices. So if you don't know much about mobile device management and you're just trying to get educated, you want to find out what these systems can do, give us a try, and at least you'll have a baseline for your evaluation. If you're interested in what, in supporting, multiple platforms through a single platform or service, then obviously, we'd like to know more about that as well. So give it a try. It's quick and easy. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Network World did an independent evaluation and test of MDM products and published the results at the end of May. And we were very pleased here to have been named the best MDM platform based on the Network World evaluation, and that was, up against, Tango, Afaria, all of the major players in the MDM space. So again, we were kind of gratified by that, and I think that if I had to pick one word that I would say was used over and over again with us, it was easy. It was easy to get set up. It was easy to use. So would hope that you would take someone else's opinion versus just the word of Chris and I. It really is easy. One last thing. A couple quick things here on upcoming webinars. We're replaying our iPhone and iPad in the Enterprise webinar. So this is one we try to do once every quarter. It's always been popular. So if you're interested in finding out some different techniques for managing iPhones and iPads in the Enterprise, please sign up for that. That's in 2 weeks. And then on August 4th, we're going to be doing a webinar on advanced mobile device management techniques, where we will talk about managing applications and what we call automated compliance. So please join us if you want to find out more about those types of capabilities and why we think they're important. So while I've been busy talking, tons of stuff have been rolling in here. So Chris and I will do our best to kind of plow through each one of these and handle them. So first question is, does MAS control access to email and other corporate content?
That's a good question, and it certainly can, and it can do that a couple different ways. So first off, with some of the advanced iOS and Android functionality we have, you're actually able to push down, call it Exchange Active Sync email profiles or other email profiles directly to the device. On top of that, we also have the integration with your existing mail infrastructure, like Exchange or like Lotus Notes. And what we're able to do there is allow you to actually take control over which devices are syncing corporate email. We have auto quarantine functionality, approval and blocking workflows, and I don't want to steal the thunder from the early August webinar that Joe has planned, but we're certainly able to do some proactive and automated approval and blocking of devices as well.
So the next question is, does MAS 360 require an agent installed on the mobile device?
Good question. And actually, this will also overlap with another question I saw come in on the iOS side regarding certificates. Okay. So on the BlackBerry side, it does not require an agent or anything like that. We would integrate directly with Bez. We can integrate directly with Exchange Active Sync or Lotus Notes as well, and in that environment, no agents would be required. Now, to do the advanced management functionality for iOS and Android, on the Android side, we do have an agent that runs locally on the device and runs local APIs and is able to do our app catalog functionality as well. On the iOS side, we do utilize Apple's APNS cert for over-the-air device management. So that would answer the other question that we had. So an agent's not necessarily required on the Apple side. However, it's oftentimes folks will utilize agent functionality as well to kind of add on some of those other features like an app catalog or something like that.
Question, do we have any plans on supporting Windows Phone 7?
Sure. So the good news is you can support Windows Phone 7 today via our integration with Exchange Active Sync or Notes Traveler. So if you do have a Windows Phone 7 devices and they are, syncing over those mechanisms, you can certainly report on them via that integration as well, set any native policies there. However, with that said, we also do have plans to kind of enhance our support directly for Windows Phone 7, much like we've done for iOS and Android as well.
Next question is asking whether MAS 360 needs access to mailboxes and whether we will get, meaning will MAS 360 be in the flow of email? I can handle this one. So, the answer is no. MAS 360 in no way gets in the flow of emails, nor does any email ever traverse it or get stored on it. The only thing we do with our integration with Exchange is we do poll the Exchange database for mailboxes that have a active sync partnership with a mobile device. But there's no proxy or any other piece of software or device that sits in the flow of email. So that's actually what we consider an advantage to our solution, is that we don't get in the way of those things. And, frankly, the stability of our platform could never have any impact on the ability of messaging to flow through your network or your systems.
Yeah, and certainly we'd never have the ability to view those messages or their contents or anything like that.
Question about,
sure.
Does the MDM portal support two-factor authentication? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways that you can control authentication. One is a device level, where we will actually authenticate not only the user but the device, and then we also offer two-factor authentication to guarantee that only legitimate users get access to the portal.
Yes, certainly. That is an optional feature for administrators, and we can go ahead and use email or SMS to send out an additional one-time passcode with a timeout limit, etc.
So we got a question here about how do you handle wiping personal devices?
So there's a couple different things you want to think about when it comes to employee-liable devices and device wipe. Certainly you don't want to necessarily wipe all of the contents of that device, all of their contacts, their pictures of maybe their child's birthday, etc. So we do allow for what we call selective wipe. And selective wipe would really just clear out anything that you've pushed down to the device. So your corporate email, calendar, contacts, any Wi-Fi or VPN profiles you've pushed, etc. So you certainly want to be cognizant of your employees and their satisfaction in the event that you're doing a wipe. And we would offer a bunch of different mechanisms for selective wipe that certainly we'd love to go into more detail with follow-up calls on as well.
There's another question that's come in regarding support for Lotus and Lotus Traveler. So yes, our cloud extender can integrate with either Exchange 2007/2010 or Notes and Notes Traveler or BlackBerry Enterprise Server 5X and up.
Yep.
There's another question that's come in. If you're integrated with Exchange, do you do synchronization? How can you secure managed device that only managed devices can sync?
And that's a good question. So what we do there is we would utilize our auto quarantine functionality as well as our compliance rules engine, and using a combination of these methods, you the administrator would be in control over which devices are actually syncing email. And certainly, you're not going to let devices that are unmanaged or don't have some of the advanced management functionality deployed go ahead and receive that email sync.
So another question is BES required to manage BlackBerry devices?
Yeah, so our BlackBerry solution, to actually do the advanced management that you saw today within our portal, we do require a BES infrastructure that we would talk to utilizing the BlackBerry administration APIs. So our cloud extender would utilize those native APIs to perform a lot of those tasks. Yeah,
so our value prop there is really not to eliminate the need for a BlackBerry Enterprise server. It's to enable multiple platforms while having a single administrative interface. So can MAS360 locate lost devices?
Absolutely. It's actually, we have the ability to locate iOS and Android devices. We'll actually bring up a map directly in the portal and show you, where they are in their last known location if they're not currently online. So we can certainly do that. Now, with that said, I know that a lot of companies don't necessarily want that 100% to be 100% of the time on. So we can turn that functionality off if there's a privacy concern or anything like that. But we certainly have that ability.
And there's a question about does the MAS360 agent for Android lock the mobile device if the user tries to uninstall it?
So we actually have a method of hardening, if you will, our control of the Android agent itself. So it's really done with a hidden profile and things like that. But the long and short of it is, certainly we could harden ourselves on the Android agent or on the Android device, and obviously without getting into too much specifics on this call, I'd love to have that conversation after the fact.
So a couple more here have kind of come in. One asking about the general cost for MAS360. Well, I can tell you this, the cost is pretty simple in terms of the model. It's simply a per device per month fee. There's no additional charges for implementation, support, activation, upgrades. The cost obviously changes depending on the volume. And, if you want to have a more specific conversation, you can certainly get in touch with Chris or I. Another question that's come in is, can you distribute corporate iPhone and iPad approved apps and wipe when an employee leaves the organization?
Yeah, so if you're going to go ahead and distribute, some enterprise apps using, our app catalog functionality, that would actually be that would be kind of considered part of that selective wipe. So that would be something that you distributed yourself, and that would actually come off if we do a selective wipe. So that would be included within the email, calendar, contacts, Wi-Fi, VPN profiles, web clips, etc.
Another question, so I guess somebody had kind of walked away here, asking if BlackBerry can be managed through MAS360. Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
Another question, can the MAS 360 Cloud Extender be run in a virtual machine, or does it require dedicated hardware? The answer is it can be run in a virtual machine, and that is how most of our customers run it.
Yes, certainly most of our customers will spin up a virtual machine alongside of those other call it mission critical systems that you guys have already spent a lot of time and effort investing in, and just make sure that the Cloud Extender is able to talk to those. And certainly, once an employee does leave the company, we can remotely remove control of those devices. So I would call that kind of a full selective wipe. So we've got really three flavors of wipe: a full wipe, a selective wipe, which clears all of the content that you push down, but leaves control in case maybe the device is found later and you want to quickly push back everything. And then really the full selective wipe, which is removing control altogether. So remotely from the portal itself, you'd be able to go ahead and remove iOS control or remove Android control. And not only would that do a selective wipe of anything you pushed, but it would also remove the management profile and or agent that was on the device. So
another question about the Cloud Extender. Does it need to be kind of co-located with the messaging system or the BES system, or can it be remote? I mean, the answer is all it needs is access, network access to those.
Yep.
So physically, it doesn't need to be anywhere near the device, as long as it can hit the APIs that it needs in order to interface with those servers. It'll be fine.
Yeah, as long as your network is set up in such a way that it can talk to that other system, physical location does not matter.
So, folks, we're kind of at the end here. I think we've hit just about all the questions. Oh, here comes another one, Chris. So there's a question about whether MAS 360 can back up data and push it if it's lost.
Yeah, so today we don't do remote backup on these mobile devices, though I kind of alluded to earlier. I think security is really going to become a key theme, call it down the line here. So certainly that might be something that we take a similar model like we've done on our PC side to be able to offer that as a managed service. Now, we can do some policy settings around backups, particularly on the iOS side, which, as you guys know, every time I plug my device into my computer and iTunes opens, it's going to attempt to do a backup of the device, and we can enforce that those backups are, in fact, encrypted.
And I guess the other thing I would say here is our document management capability. If a device was lost, it would get re-pushed back down to a device, but that's obviously not the same as backing up all the data on a device. But at least for specific content that you're trying to manage and get down to those devices, it could do it through that. Yeah, and obviously when you re-enabled a new device or that device, your corporate email and contacts and settings would be automatically redelivered. So there's another question came in here about content filtering. This is one that's kind of a little bit near and dear to my heart, because we actually work with a number of school districts that are busy trying to deploy iPads right now. And what they're really worried about is SEPA compliance, Child Internet Protection Act compliance. So they're very, very concerned about not just giving these iPads out, but if they should leave the corporate LAN, how do they control where these kids go with their web browsers? And so there are some partners that we work with that provide cloud-based content filtering, and that is our answer to how we would help companies solve that type of a problem. Yeah, I saw a couple other questions come in about additional content and case studies and things like that. So I'd certainly recommend that you folks do visit our website. Joe's put some links up to our Master Center, as well as you can visit directly to www.mas360.com for a whole slew of information like data sheets, solution briefs, case studies, etc. Yeah, so I think we've hit just about everything that came in. I'll give it a couple more seconds here. Wanted to thank everybody for their time today. A lot of great questions. Hope you all found it useful. You'll get an email at the top of the hour with a link where you can get the slides. You'll also, that same link will have the recorded version of this webinar posted tomorrow. And for anyone whose questions we weren't able to get to here live during the webinar, we'll follow up with you offline and get back to you on those. Also, you can see Chris's contact info up there, and you've got mine. If you enrolled, you got an email from me. So feel free to follow up with Chris or I directly on any questions you got, and we'd be happy to help you or put you in touch with the right person here at FiberLink. Thanks for your time. See you again in 2 weeks. Hope you try the eval. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.